Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. We were on mute, so I just gave a little presentation and nobody heard me. So anyway, welcome to the ASB committee meeting. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to welcome any new members. We've had a lot of people sign up recently, and that's great. It's good to know that the ASB committee meeting info is getting out to people, and you are passing it on to others. So that's great. Today we have a presentation from Melissa Ritter-Malone from the State Auditor's Office. So we're going to get to that in just a few minutes, but I wanted to give you a couple of updates before we do that. Marty's not here with me today. He's at the Athletic Directors Conference in Spokane, so he's meeting with them. I wanted to give you a little bit of feedback on the ASB student budget presentation last month. That was a great presentation from Central Valley Spokane High School, and I got a lot of feedback from members, and that was great, that they really enjoyed the students. They did a great job. They had passed it on to their advisors and also had students either watch it live or the recording. So I think that's great, and I want to take that and go with that next year and do more presentations by the kids. I think that that's really important for us. So my first one in September, I'd like to have a school that can give us ideas on fundraisers, talk to us about what their meetings look like, meeting minutes, approvals, how they work with the ASB bookkeeper, those types of things. So I think in all fairness, what we should do is get submittals from schools that want to give a presentation. So if you have your high school ASB would like to give a presentation, please have them reach out to me and give me a submittal on what they would like to do, and we will look through those and then pick a school to do that. So we are thinking probably about 3 presentations a year, 3 to 4 with students. So I will let you know more about that, but just please pass that on to your ASB advisors. I think it's really good when the kids are involved. Also, the ASB manual review, we are almost finished. We are waiting for one final section. We added a new section for awards and gifts. That's a very popular topic. So the State Auditor's Office is reviewing that now, so we're waiting for word back on that. And then the manual will be complete. We hope to get that posted at the end of May. We're waiting for WASBO to get over right now and also to get that final section back. The template forms, we received many forms from districts, so we really appreciate that. Sharon Suber-Jones has volunteered. Even though she's retired, she's on our committee to do the handbook, and she has graciously volunteered to go through those forms and find the best of the best, and WASBO is turning those into generic forms. So we hope to get those posted soon. We're still going through those, and due to limitations on our website, we will be posting one form for each topic, and those will be all generic that you can go out and have a bank of template forms. So that will be coming soon. Another thing, we have the WASBO ASB or the WASBO annual conference, and that is May 10th through the 12th. So we hope to see a lot of you there. SAO will be giving a presentation on audit issues and internal controls. We will have ASB and booster clubs, Washington State Gambling Commission, risk associated with ASB, and also ASB internal controls and district oversight. So hopefully you can get signed up and go to one or more of those, and let your staff know also that we'll have those. We are looking for moderators for ASB workshops. We only need a couple, but if you'd be interested in doing that, you can go ahead and email me. We also are giving a gift to the committee basket. It's the basket that is auctioned off for scholarships. We are donating a piggy bank. Another committee had done that in the past, and what it is it's a piggy bank that people can drop money into, and then whoever wins the auction on that basket gets that along with some other gifts. So be looking for the piggy bank at the table. It'll say ASB Feed Me, and that's our committee donation. So please, if you have some extra change in your pocket, throw it in there. Next year's topics, we're going over those right now, like I said, so we'll be getting those out on the website soon. We've got one more meeting for this year, and that is Tuesday, May 23rd, and that will be, everybody knows Marty's 10 pretty hard questions. He's called it now pretty interesting questions, so, and year-end reminder, so that'll be May 23rd. And then the only other thing, we had one request, one of the districts emailed Marty and asked if anyone was using something called Huddle tickets. I guess they give free tickets for athletics. Marty looked on the website, it didn't give much information, so this district asked if anyone else had experience with it. So again, it's Huddle tickets. If you do, can you either email me or send something through the chat on this meeting? So with that, I am going to turn it over to Melissa Ritter-Malone. She's going to give her current audit findings. You have the presentation materials, and if you have questions, please enter those in the chat box, and we will ask the questions at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Hey, Melissa, you're muted at the moment, so let me go back in and check on that. It says you're self-muted. Did you mute yourself?
There we go.
There you are.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Thank you.
And can you also see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Fabulous. Okay, so I will get started. My name is Melissa Ritter-Malone. I'm with the State Auditor's Office, and I just went too far on my slides. And so this is a presentation of what we're seeing so far on our audits this year. And one of the first questions that we always get is, why do we audit ASB? And it's because ASB money is public money. Taxpayers, us as taxpayers, we want to ensure that our public funds are used wisely and well, and so we want to make sure that ASB money is used legally and appropriately. Sorry, I'm getting a message that it's having problems with my connection, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. So we also want to look at ASB because it's the law. ASB funds must be used for optional, non-credit extracurricular activities that are also under that acronym that Marty uses a lot, CARS, cultural, athletic, recreational, and social. So we have 91 audits so far this year that are looking at ASB in some form or another. We are only partially through our audits at this point, so we only have about 60 of them that are to a point where we can get any results out of them. 31 audits have the ASB section placed onto them in the documentation that we use, but no work has been done. So we can't give too many details yet because there haven't been very many results that have been published yet. So we're not going to go into detail, but I will kind of talk in some generalities. So first thing that I want to do, though, is we have a couple of cause for applause. These are districts that have done something very unusual and very fantastic. As I said, there are two of them. We have Anacortes School District and we have White River School District. Both of these school districts had no errors on their ASB when they were audited. So good job, you guys. That is fantastic and very unusual. And to have two of them, that's fantastic too. So what we have seen year to date as far as our audits, aside from our two that had no errors, we had one district that didn't have enough documentation even to audit, which is obviously kind of a problem. We've got some rules in the state of Washington that tell us what documentation needs to be retained as public institutions. So these are some of the DANs, or they're the section numbers for each of these requirements. And later I'll give you kind of where you can find those. This talks about Charters and bylaws have to be retained for a certain period of time. Financial transactions records, they also have to be retained. Elections, we've gotten some questions, do you have to keep ballots? You don't have to keep ballots, but you have to keep the number of voters for each particular section. The ASB minutes have to be retained for 6 years, and then a lot of these records need to go to the archives for permanent retention or for them to decide whether they want to retain it. The best thing to do if you do have questions about document retention, records retention, is to talk to the state archives. If you think it's something that we might be able to answer, go ahead and call us. We're here to answer questions. Most of us at this point see our roles as helping you guys improve what you're doing, which makes auditing easier. If you guys are doing everything great, an audit goes really fast. It costs the taxpayers less money when that happens, and so it's just all around a good thing to have all the pieces that you need. The, sorry, forever, that's the permanent retention thing. So we've got laws and regulations that are part of the requirements for ASB. ASB rules were put together by OSPI and with a little help from the state auditor's office. So we've worked together to kind of make the laws that, or to feed into the laws. State auditor's office does not make the laws. We do not enforce the laws. We just look and see whether there's compliance with the laws. But OSPI is the one who makes the laws for those pieces for the most part. The legislature has done some work, but OSPI has the responsibility of taking those overall laws and making them into regulations. So we've got some requirements as far as ASB budgets go, that they have to be done yearly and go to the school board for approval. We've also got some deposits of public funds requirements, and that isn't just for ASB, that's for all government entities, all state government entities. We have to have funds deposited within 24 hours, and those funds have to go into a Washington State depository. There are a specific list of depositories that can go to, and that is on the state treasurer's website. There are not only banks, but there are also credit unions. So last time I looked at the site, it was on a list on the right-hand side of the page. So it should still be there, and it wasn't terribly easy or terribly difficult to find. So some of the most noted issues this year, and like I said, keep in mind we've only finished or almost finished about 60 files, 60 district audits. So this first one, we had some ASB fund balances that were negative at the end of last year. So fund balances should never ever be negative. We'll just throw that out there right off. The School District Accounting Manual in Chapter 9 talks about whether what can happen with fund balances. We can never have a negative balance. We also shouldn't have negative balances in individual activities either. Think of it along the lines of writing a check on a checking account that has no money in it. That's not something you would do either. So you don't want to overdraw your activities. Transfers can happen if they need to. They should happen before a negative balance happens. Those need to be approved by the student body in, at whatever level the school board policy says those things have to be approved. They also need to be approved by the activity club that is having the money transferred into, and if you're transferring it out of another club, they also need to approve that. So we need buy-in from all of the different people that are involved in that. So we always need to have a positive balance in every account. How you guys do that transfer-wise is kind of up to you, but we always need that positive balance. Segregation of duties. We had several cases where we had the same person doing the receipting as was doing the reconciliations on deposits. That is really never a good idea. It makes it far too easy to miss errors. It makes it far too easy to miss losses. it's much better to have one person. If you are a small school district, and I know there are a lot of small school districts out there, and it is hard to find enough people to do all of these bits and pieces. But if you only have one office person, have a school board member reconcile, have the principal reconcile, but have somebody else do each of the pieces as far as you can out. Safeguarding of assets. One of the specific cases was that there were some discount cards that were left over from a fundraiser. The person that was being interviewed for the audit said they had been destroyed, but there were no records of that destruction. There were also no witnesses of that destruction. So while it probably happened, without the documentation, we have to kind of assume on the conservative side when we audit, and that maybe they didn't get destroyed, and if not, what happened with them. So the discount cards are an asset, the ASB cards are an asset. Anything that has a monetary value is an asset and needs to be looked after. Yearbooks. You know, a lot of the yearbook companies will send extras when they send the order. So sometimes those aren't tracked as carefully as the ones that were actually paid for in the beginning, or ordered in the beginning, I should say. You always want to track everything. We had some cash, which this one really scares me. We had some cash left in unlocked cash drawers in school stores. These were in locked classrooms, or locked, you know, the school store was locked, but anybody who had access to that room by key or whatever also had access to that cash. So we always want to have cash in locked areas, preferably a safe, but we always want to know where everything is. Records retention. I talked a little bit about this before, but we've had several instances where ASB minutes were not retained. And some of that was, there was a specific schedule that these meetings were supposed to be happening, but they weren't necessarily. And so we couldn't tell if there were gaps in the meetings themselves or gaps in the meeting minutes that had been retained. So this particular one was also missing the approval of the prior meeting minutes, and so it was impossible to tell if there had been a meeting and nobody took notes or kept notes, or there hadn't been a meeting at all. So you always want to have enough information to tell us what's going on. Untimely deposits. As I mentioned earlier, deposits need to be made within 24 hours intact in a Washington depository. Money should never ever be taken home for safekeeping. Money should never be left in a classroom. Money should always be locked up. And part of that safeguarding and the untimely deposits is the money needs to be put intact into the bank, which means that you don't give change from checks. You make sure that all of the cash that you got is actually going into the bank. You make sure that all the checks that you got are actually going into the bank. You don't use money. If you've got a fundraiser going and you need supplies, you don't use money out of your till to go get supplies. You go through the regular process of however your district does supplies purchasing. We also had expenditures that were not approved. Sometimes this happens in the middle of a fundraiser. Like I mentioned, you go into your till and get money for the supplies. That's not been approved. So we want to see all of the expenditures approved and document that in some way. Either on the purchase orders, the disbursement requests, however you guys do your process. Inventory documentation is also part of that safeguarding of assets. If you don't know how many you got from the vendor, you can't tell how many you ought to have left after you sold. So you need to be able to track all of your inventory, all of your assets throughout its life with you. So every time you have inventory, you need to be able to track, here's how we started, here's what we sold, here's what we have. And hopefully they're matching. That's the goal anyway. Fundraiser approvals. This is the requirement that fundraisers be approved by the student council and by the adult leadership of the ASB. Generally, that's the principal. All of those fundraisers have to be approved by both sets of people. Otherwise, it is something that we're gonna call out as an error. Cash receipting and reconciliation. So all of the money that comes in needs to be receipted when you get it. That either means a manual receipt, it means a point of sale, it means cash register. It needs to be documented and receipted in some way. The reconciliation paragraph on this slide, I'm afraid, is the incorrect reconciliation, and I did not catch that. The reconciliation that we're talking about with cash receipting is the actual reconciliation of the deposit to the money that should be there. And that doesn't always happen, and it really should. I know that a lot of districts don't deposit daily, but I would suggest that you do reconcile daily. You can prepare your deposit and not deposit it, just keep it in your safe. At the very least, reconcile what you have and set it aside so you're starting with a fresh cash drawer in the morning. And that's my suggestion. The biggest issue that we've seen so far in our audits this year is the big picture analysis stuff. And this is the profit and loss analysis, or the revenues and expenditures analysis. This is the final reconciliation, and it's the profit analysis at the end. So we've seen about 198 instances of missing documents on this so far. And keep in mind, this is in 60 files, so or 60 districts. So some fundraisers were missing one of these items, some were missing all three of these items, and of course different auditors with different amounts of time might look at 2 or 3 fundraisers, or they might look, in one case one looked at 19 fundraisers. So it's not, you know, it's not going to be one per district sort of thing. So one of the reasons that we really focus on having these happen is that if you do your revenues and expenditures projection, you know kind of what you expect to have happen in the fundraiser. And then when you get to the profit analysis, you can say, okay, so here's what we expected. We expected that we were going to sell $500 worth. Our expenses, we expected to be $100. So we expect to make $400, which is great. But what if instead of making $500, or instead of getting $500 in revenue, what if instead you got $200 in revenue? And what if your costs, instead of being $100, or $150? So you've made $50 instead of the $400 you anticipated, but you've spent all this time and energy and effort. So if you have that big picture analysis on hand, then you know that that was not a successful fundraiser, and maybe there are changes that need to happen, or maybe you just scrap that one in future and just don't do it. But that helps you do planning for later, not just looking at the fundraiser that it was on. So you always want to have those analysis sorts of things. And I know a lot of people say, I don't have time for that. I have way too much other stuff to do with my other duties. Have your kids do it. It's a great thing for them to know how to do anyway. The final reconciliation, same thing. It's a good teaching tool for the kids. It helps them learn some of the really basic accounting sorts of things that they're going to use for their own projects in their whole lives, whether they're business people or not. So you want to give them that opportunity. If you're afraid that it's too slow, my suggestion is take some of those blank forms, make up some fundraisers, just make up fake numbers. Have a practice session or two when you start off each year, when you're getting ready to start your fundraisers, when you're thinking about how to go about it with your kids. Have them fill some dummy ones out. That'll give them some practice and make everybody more familiar with what's supposed to be happening. So there's some things that we wanted to bring up. Some of them are things that you may not be aware of. Some are things that we wanted to remind you of. The first thing is publication of ASB financial information. This is an RCW, and it's 28A325050. And this says that 5 years of ASB financial information needs to be posted on district websites, and that is for each of the ASBs in the school district. That has to be posted to the district site by August 31st, and each account has to be represented, and it did say that. If each school has a website, then the ASB information for that school needs to be on the school's website as well. The information that you need to have on there is the beginning balance, beginning of the year balance, and then the summary data for the expenditures and the revenues, and then the ending balance. So it's not super detailed, but it is really important to have on there. I may have mentioned that we've got a new audit program. This audit program was created to be a little more detailed and also a little bit more consistent for the auditors, so that they can be a little quicker in their audits but still get the information that we're hoping to have them look at. We're asking them to look for compliance with the laws. We're asking them to look for compliance with the regulations, with the school district accounting manual, and if it's been adopted by the school district, we want them to look at the WASBO manual as authoritative. If it has not been adopted by the school district, we're going to ask for them to look at it as a best practice. So you may get suggestions that are not part of your policy, but they are still a best practice, because WASBO has spent a lot of time and effort putting together some really great documents, and obviously they're improving them all the time. So they are there for your use, and especially if you haven't got documents that seem to be working well for you, at least take a look at those and see if they can be helpful to you. We are also hoping that this gives us an opportunity to look at a more comprehensive view of the state. If we've got all of the auditors looking at the same items, then we can kind of bring it together at the end of the year and be able to say, okay, this is something districts need help on. This is something that the majority of districts are missing something on, kind of like those big picture analysis things. That's happening a lot. In most districts, there's one or more of those missing. So obviously there needs to be some conversations within the districts, and maybe with us if you need help, and hopefully that will help with that. You may be getting, because this is a more detailed audit plan, you may be getting more requests for documents than you have before. So if you haven't already had an audit, please be prepared for that. Our next item is records retention, and I did talk quite a bit about this earlier, but you can find all of those requirements for records retention on the Secretary of State's website, and it's under archives, records management, and then local governments. The ASB retention schedule used to be in the school's schedule, but it is now in the core schedule. So you'll need to look at both schedules to get all of the pieces, because some of the overall school items also apply to ASB. These are the the core schedule talks about the financial transactions, and so that applies to ASB, and that's what says that the documentation for the sales needs to be maintained, the like ticket sales, product sales, receipts, invoices, all of that stuff needs to be maintained so that somebody can track back what happened. We also have a cheat sheet for you. Some of you may have already seen this. We did premiere this at the WASBO workshops last year. So that looks like this, and you did get it with your packet of stuff for this presentation. And this is what we used to build the new audit program. This is directly related to it. I wrote both of them, so both of them jibe pretty well with each other. And it's It's not a guarantee that auditors won't find other things to look at, but this will give you a head start on what they're probably going to be looking for. And I have a favor to ask of all of you. I would like to see this document distributed far and wide. We would love, the State Auditor's Office would love, if everybody that touches ASB could have a copy of this. So if you could share this with everybody, and I'm talking students, principals, advisors, anybody that touches ASB, this will, I think, help with everybody's understanding of the requirements and why you are asking other people to do these things. So it will maybe help them realize how important all this stuff is. And hopefully it'll reduce errors. We also have a questions and answers page, and that also came with the packet that you got. I would also like this to be distributed out as far as you can. And what this is some of the more common questions and sort of our responses as far as what laws are behind that requirement or behind that answer that we would give to a question if we were asked that. It also has some records retention information. It has the laws and regulations on it. It is not exhaustive. There are lots of things that we left off of this, and it will probably grow over time. If we keep getting the same question, it's probably going to get added to this with a response. So what's next? What's next is we're going to continue doing our school audits. We will probably finishing them in early to mid-summer. So we should be able to give some final details and analysis by the time the WASBO workshops come around. So, and as I mentioned before, those are a lot of fun and really informative, and I hope I get to see as many of you there as possible. And there's my plug for the workshops. And if you have questions, please feel free to contact any of the 3 people that are on this slide. Cheryl Thresher is my manager, and she is one of the experts on ASB with us. Joanne Klein is the Tacoma team manager, and of course I am Melissa Ritter-Malo. And that is the end. And I think that we're going to do questions. Somebody is going to read them because I won't be able to see them very well. So.
Great job, Melissa. Thank you. Yeah, so for those of you who are on the line, there is a question box. Feel free to ask your questions. At the moment, we have one question, and it says, what makes it public money when students have raised the money many times after school hours and it's coming from private sources? Is the question.
Yep. So what makes it private money is that the students are raising it. If it is something that is sanctioned by the school district, that is part of the requirement that makes it public money. Students can do private fundraising if they are using any school, like school personnel, if school personnel are involved, if they're using school materials, that automatically becomes public money. They can do private non-student body fundraising. There are some really specific requirements for that too. That money can be put into basically a trust account with the ASB, but the requirement is that signage say very specifically what this money is going to go to. It has to go into a separate account. So the 6,000 accounts, I think, is mostly where people put that. And it's really how much school time, school resources is going into it is kind of the decision maker on that. Did that answer the question?
We will find out if she writes back.
Okay.
So the next question has to do with the Senate Bill 6062, and the question is it okay to have the document only on the district's website? With over 100 schools, does Seattle have to post individual balances on each school's website?
I would hesitantly say that as long as you have all of them on the district website, you're potentially going to be okay. However, the law does say that it needs to be on each individual school's website. So it's a chance you take. If you're going to do it just on the district website, at minimum, I would have it on the district website and divide out by school. So, like, and I can't think of a single high school's name off the top of my head, but say you had South Seattle High School and you had Mid Seattle High School and North Seattle High School, you would have 3 different line items on your report on your district page. So as far as following the law goes, you do need to have it on the individual schools' websites. And I can't say one way or the other if an auditor will look at the school level or district level only.
Okay, I'll forward on Irma's follow-up questions to you to be addressed in that way, okay? So Irma, okay. I'll follow up on that. Our next question, so I will say to Melissa that Cheryl is on the line and she's sharing as well. So I want to go back to the comment about public money. Cheryl's statement is, if any school resources and time goes into it, that makes it public. Okay, so just to tag on to the other one. All right, next question. Are we required to use the Washington Archives to store our permanent records if we have storage space?
I think so. That is specified in the DAN. I think maybe they have better storage resources. They generally will digitalize a lot of things, I think. So that way, and it's a bit safer because they have backups and you probably don't if you're storing paper storage. I would follow the requirements of the DAN, and if you do have questions about that, I would refer you to the Secretary of State archives. That would be the safest. Give them a call specifically.
Great. Next question. Can ASB minutes be scanned and archived instead of hard copies after 7 years?
I think that you, at 6 years, you're supposed to give them to the state archives. So again, I'm going to refer you to the state archivist as opposed to the state auditor's office for the answer to that. If you want to keep copies of the minutes on site, you would be perfectly within your rights to do that. But as far as the paper documents themselves, I think that they would need to go to the archives. We talked a little bit about this in the WASBO workshops last year, and there's a problem with us keeping things digitally. Digital files degrade, and we don't always keep up with making sure those formattings are still going to be correct. My sad story that I'll make really brief is that my husband and I's vows were in a digital document, and when I went to go do something with them for our 10th anniversary, they were gibberish. So that is the sad story of digital documentation. You may not always have it. Even though you think you've got it, you may not always have it. The state archives keeps very up to date on the latest digital technology. They're always updating how they're documenting or how they're keeping those documents, so they're not going to lose things. So hopefully that answers that.
Okay, so we will keep moving on. Cheryl also shared that each school needs to post their ASB minutes. So in addition, so the minutes need to be posted as well. Oh,
yes, on the school district website or school website.
Yeah. All right, so next question is for ASB elections, you said that we need to keep the number of voters for each section, president, VP, etc. Is this just for general ASB or all ASB groups?
My understanding is for all ASB. I could be incorrect. Cheryl may have a different answer.
Okay, we'll give her a chance to pipe in here in just a minute. I'll go to the next question. If you do a GF fundraiser, which is attached to a SPED class, do you follow the same rules as ASB fundraising, but you put the money in a GF account? Can they use the money to do field trips?
I'm sorry, the audio cut out a little bit, so I couldn't hear all of that.
I'll read the question again. If you do a general fund fundraiser, which is attached to a special ed class, do you follow the same rules as ASB fundraising, but you put the money into a general fund account?
Sorry. My understanding of general fundraiser is that the rules are different. There are specific rules for general fundraisers in that, and it sounds like you're following that probably, that general fund fundraisers have to be academically focused, and the money has to go back into the class. As far as the documentations like the approvals and all of those things, because there's no student council involvement, because it's not going to be student council funds, I don't know of any documentation that is required that is similar to ASB. I would think that for best practice purposes, you would want to use similar documentation as far as keeping track of the money that you expended, the money that came in, keeping track of your inventory, just kind of the basic things you would do for a business already. I think would be the sorts of things that you would want to keep track of.
So it looks like this is Cheryl.
I think I allowed Cheryl a voice. Are you there?
Yeah, Laura got tired of reading my typing. I'm a fast typer. The only thing I would add to that is the district should have a general fundraising policy, and you should follow that. And Melissa was correct. It's specific, very specific. It has to be tied to that academic class. And yes, you would put that money into a separate account. Please do not run it through the ASB account. That's all. Back to you.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next question. Now, I'm sure that there'll be some further feedback, but we'll just keep going. So this next one says, I just became the ASB secretary on September 1st with no real training. I have spent the better part of the year trying to keep up and catch up. Every day I learn something new. I'm keeping all of my records. However, some stuff goes to the district office. Do I need to keep copies of those as well?
I'm going to say it wouldn't hurt. What I have seen that would be a kind of a best practice for just about everybody would be for each of your fundraisers, you have a little packet of all of those documents that are required or a best practice. So if you have some stuff that has to go to the district, it wouldn't hurt to keep copies of that stuff too.
But if all of it goes to the district and it's all kept together in a packet, that would, to me, would be the best practice, because I don't think you need to make any more work for yourself than you need to. It's just when the auditors come in or anybody else that has a question, if you have that all together in a packet and you can put your hands on it, that's perfect. That's what you're looking for.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so the next question is the ASB info that is posted to the district only showing ASB as a whole, or does the info have to show each individual club account?
The law itself says ASB as a whole. I have seen the individual club accounts on there, but the law says the ASB as a whole.
All right, next question. Can we use a third party, for example, 31, Mary Kay, Avon, Tupperware, as an ASB fundraiser?
It depends on how well you can track everything. If you are in charge of tracking all of the sales, the profits, the deposits, as long as the deposits are being done daily, all of those requirements still have to happen. And I know that there are a problem with a lot of the third-party fundraisers in that they don't happen. A lot of the third-party sorts of fundraisers like that often have a consultant that is gathering all of the orders and all of the money, and it's just basically coming to you guys. There's not a lot of student participation in a lot of those. So I don't know how useful it is as a teaching tool. I also don't know if it can comply with the requirements. And so it's kind of up to you guys if you can make it comply with all the requirements, including the depositing within 24 hours and keeping track of, you know, purchases and sales and expenditures and all of that, then you can do it. But be sure that you can keep track of all of that stuff.
Awesome. Next question, and then we have a whole plethora of questions about the posting the meeting minutes, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Is it okay for students to use an electronic signature on minutes?
I don't think that there's been any determination that they can't. There are some schools that don't keep paper minutes. They only have them digitally. So
I would just add, work with the state archivist to make sure anything that you're doing digitally or electronically, you're following the appropriate method, procedures for doing it and for retaining it.
Okay, so apparently the comment about and Cheryl, you might want to field this one, about posting of the minutes has created quite a flurry. So what is they would like more information about the requirement about the minutes being posted on the website, and is this an actual RCW law requirement, and
That's
if so,
what
how long do they need to be posted?
Okay, I'm looking, let me find it.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to move on to something else while I'm looking.
Okay. Well, like I said, they're all asking the same question, so all right. So Irma has shared that the board should have a policy for general fund fundraising requirements and limits. So that was a follow-up to a previous question. And Cheryl also said, yes, you should have a general fundraising policy and you should put them into a separate account, not ASB.
Right.
Further clarification on the minutes. Do all club activity minutes have to be on the website or just the student body leadership? So that might be a sort of a follow-up. All right, let's keep going because I know Cheryl's going to get us started. What is the auditor's opinion regarding online fundraising, example, SNAP raise?
The auditor has the same opinion as the other third party. If you can follow all the rules using it.
For third-party cash receipting, yeah.
Right.
And just be careful, be really careful that they're not using your district EIN. Sometimes that happens, or sometimes they promise to give that it's a tax deductible, you know, fundraiser. You can deduct it from your taxes. So just be very aware of how they're representing the district and what they're doing with your money.
Right. And the other thing to keep in mind is that we've heard some horror stories in the WASBA workshops about how much they're taking, and that is another problem, is that often they aren't depositing intact. So they're taking their cut before they give you guys your money, which doesn't work as far as the rules go. They need to give you guys all of the money, and then they need to invoice you. There have been some problems with not having raised enough, and the fine print on the contract that may or may not have been read says that under a certain amount you don't get anything. So again, you've theoretically raised this money, but that third-party electronic vendor gets all of it. Also, there are contracts involved. You want to make sure that the person in your district who is appropriate and authorized to sign contracts has authorized that. So there's a lot of moving parts to those. There are a lot of requirements that not many have complied with completely. So use caution. If you do decide to use them, make sure that it's within your district policy. There are some districts who have made it policy not to allow that. So know for sure before you start a fundraiser that your school board has approved that type of fundraiser, and those may be off limits for them as far as they're concerned. So keep that in mind.
Okay, great. So the next question is, can board policy amend the deposit within 24 hours?
No. The only thing that can amend that deposit within 24 hours is a waiver from the treasurer. So there are waivers that can be available. The maximum is 1 week. So deposits must be made within 1 week, but only with a waiver.
Okay. Can general fund fundraiser money be used for field trips?
General fund funds in general, sorry that was a little awkward, but you know what I mean, can be used for anything. So if the general fund, you know, if the administration decides to allow the use of general fund money for anything, ASB or otherwise, they can.
But if she's saying general fund fundraiser, that you would have to follow your district's policy, and normally when you do a general fund fundraiser, it's tied to a specific class for a specific purpose, and a field trip might be an allowable purpose depending on your policy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so Cheryl, have you been successful in retrieving what you need?
No, I'm still working on it because I'm listening and answering and looking at the same time, and obviously I don't multitask well.
So there was a question about where you can find the documents from today's presentation. They are available on the WASBO website on the ASB committee page under today's meeting. It'll say meeting presentation and then 2 additional documents. And Melissa, would you like to amend that one slide and resend
Yes.
your
yes,
presentation? So everybody, there will be a revised PowerPoint presentation available on the WASBO website, and I will write the words revised behind it because we want to make sure that you have absolute correct information moving forward. All right, hang on. I think we got another question. Oh, yeah, that was a really good. So one of the questions that came up is on your points of interest. Is there a way to get sort of a summary on those? Because I do know that Brianne actually wrote one down that was quite posting the fund balance. So is it possible to get maybe a summary sheet to be included with that?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll bullet point those out instead of having that animation. I'll bullet point those out and have the details in that when I send the revised presentation.
Okay, awesome. I've got, do ASB clubs need to turn in their minutes to ASB?
I think that would depend on your district policy.
I hear Cheryl frantically flipping.
Yeah, I think honestly, guys, I don't do well under stress. Not on the spot. I think it will take me, as soon as I hang up from this conversation, I will find the statute and the guidance.
So
that's how it normally works. So why don't we post that when Melissa sends the amended slides? We can make sure we have that information that addresses the minutes.
That's a perfect solution. So one last call for questions. If there's any more questions for Melissa or Cheryl at the moment. So again, new revised information will be uploaded to the WASBO website, and you can check back there, and they'll be in PDF form, so you'll be able to download them. So with that, Brianne, is there anything else that you wanted to share with the group?
No, that was it for today. I just want to remind you of our meeting on May 23rd. That'll be the 10 interesting questions. Also, hopefully we'll see a lot of you at the WASBO conference. And I will ask, I get a lot of questions on where do we find the recordings. So I'm going to have Laura walk us through that on the screen real quick just to show you. Because I know there's some advisors that listen in on that too, and they might not be familiar with WASBO. And again, we want to get this pushed out to as many people as possible. So we're going to have Laura go out to the website and show you where that is. Okay. hopefully. Sorry, now I put Laura on the spot. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going to see, can everybody see my screen? Can anybody let me know? Cheryl or Melissa, can you see my screen?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is the main WASBO screen. Under committees, you're going to go down to the ASB committee page. You're going to scroll down. There's all of the, I'll just sort of go through a quick thing. There's best practice and forums. Again, those are all under review right now, but they are available up here, and they are for WASBO members only. It's one of the member benefits. Here's all of the meeting dates and information to include all of the presentation materials that we have done this year. And here's today. And so again, you will see a revised presentation once we receive that. And then directly under that are all of the recorded ASB meetings that we have done to this point. And I will have today's meeting up there hopefully today or tomorrow for those of you who would like to view it. And then if you keep scrolling down, there's a lot of other very valuable resources at the bottom of the page to include your contact information for Brianne and Marty. And here's the ASB manual, which is in the final stages of being reviewed, and we're hoping to have that released by the next meeting on May 23rd. So just keep an eye open for that. You've got a really hard working group of people that have dedicated a lot of their time and energy to updating this. So I just want to double check and make sure everybody can see. So the question is that if you're not a member, can you still access that page? And yes, the answer is you can access anything that is not locked. So right now the forms are locked for WASBO members. But if there's something specific that you're looking for, please don't hesitate to contact Brianne or Marty or myself, and let's just see what we can do for you. We definitely encourage membership because there's a lot of benefit that goes into that. But as of right now, anything on that page down below underneath the meeting is open to anyone. So you have access to the information that is there. So
can you just click on the ASB manual just to show you? So for new people, and that's what I always try to get at, is there's a lot of people that come and go. So we want to make sure new people understand where the resources are. And this will be what it looks like when we finalize the manual too, but we'll have the updated manual. But in the meantime, you've got each section, and you can, quickly print a section if you need to give one to an advisor or a coach or somebody. And that's what we're trying to get, all of those sections individualized. And then in the appendix, we're going to have some sections that will say, if you need to make a manual, here are some suggested sections or things like that. So we, still welcome any input that you have on, how to get this out there, or again, we need to get this out to people, and there are a lot of new people. So any input is appreciated. Also, just a reminder, if you would like to moderate, let us know to look for the ASB Piggy Bank at the WASBO conference. And we appreciate everything, and I appreciate all the feedback, and I'm excited that we're going to look at getting the kids involved. So again, if you want to have some of your students present next year, please have them submit their ideas to me, and then we'll look through those and we're working on our calendar now. So great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and we had one last question with regard to the cost of WASBO membership. It is $175 a year. If you attend the conference, your membership for the following year is included in your registration, and they run, I believe it's July 1st through June 30th. So for $175, having access to some of these member benefits is truly, really something that I would discuss with your administration. And you can attend these meetings. You do not need to be a member, but there are going to be some things that I think would be worth exploring. So happy to answer any of those other questions. And Melissa and Cheryl, thank you very much for presenting today and the time that it takes. Great information and extremely helpful. So we're very appreciative of both of you for sure.
Definitely. And anytime you have questions, just give us a yell. We'll do our best.
Well, and I just want to say too, when I was new to ASB, the state auditor really helped me too, because there were a lot of things I wasn't sure about, and that's what this environment's a safe environment. So if you are new and you don't know something, you need to ask, because you don't want to wait and get an audit finding. So either ask us at WASPO or ask the state auditor. They're really good at you know, giving advice and pointing you in the right direction. So that resource is there. So don't be afraid of them, because they're very helpful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, all right. So if there's no other questions at this time, and I'm not seeing any, then we will just bid you all a very great day, and hopefully we'll see you in May at the annual conference in Spokane.
You know.
Okay, see you in May.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.